Joining me now with the latest from Melbourne CBD is our reporter, Abby Dinham. Abby, how many potential exposure sites have been listed as of today?
Well, Ricardo, we have over 360 potential exposure sites listed. Around half of those are considered Tier 1, so they're the most serious sites for potential infection. Amongst those are popular shopping strips as well as large retail centres. Now, we know state health authorities are concerned about infection through what they're calling fleeting contact between strangers, so they are casting a wide net. But we have had a reprieve for regional Victoria. Restrictions will begin to roll back from tomorrow night. Now, the state government says it won't be implementing the ring of steel that we saw last year, separating metropolitan and regional areas. Instead, they're putting the onus back on regional business owners to check the IDs of their patrons to ensure they haven't come from within the city limits. The acting premier urging everyone to be vigilant and to follow the rules as Melbourne once again becomes the front line in Australia's battle against COVID. Another 6 cases confirmed, another 7 days in lockdown. As the outbreak spreads, the state government says it's been left with no choice but to keep Melbourne under restrictions.
If we let this thing run its course, it will explode. We've got to run this to ground, because if we don't, people will die.
A second resident testing positive at Arcare Maidstone aged care facility. 1 in 10 active cases believed to have been infected in a casual setting. The variant described as a beast that must be run down to the ground.
We have to take a path where we drive this virus back down completely so that we can get control into the longer term.
I believe that they're doing what would be correct management, and that is wanting to see the end of it. You don't know you're seeing the end of it until you've had zeros.
From tomorrow night, the 5 reasons to leave home remain in metropolitan Melbourne, but the shopping and exercise radius grows to 10 kilometres. Senior students can return to school. Some outdoor jobs can also return. In regional Victoria, the 5 reasons are removed. Metropolitan holidaymakers told regional Victoria travel is unlikely for the Queen's birthday weekend.
When you close down metropolitan Melbourne, you close regional Victoria from a tourism point of view.
This has probably been the hardest of the 4 lockdowns. It's unknown when it's going to end, and that's why we need to see it absolute commitment ending by next Friday.
The state government announcing a further $209 million in business support on top of the $250 million already announced Sunday. Business owners calling it a pittance. Paul DiMartina says he stands to lose $50,000 over the lockdown, but is only eligible for 7 in state government grants.
Slap in the face and anything what's been offered as compensation for something that, this is again out of our control. We're doing everything we can to keep people safe, and our industry just keeps copping the brunt of it.
Victoria reissuing its call for the federal government to reactivate JobKeeper.
Victorian workers are crying out for support.
I will speak to him, the Prime Minister will speak to James Merlino, our health officials will talk, and we'll consider that in due course.
The acting Victorian Premier says he expects to be in a position in a week's time to loosen restrictions in metropolitan Melbourne, but he says all efforts must be made to contain the outbreak of this highly infectious variant amongst a population that's largely unvaccinated. The vaccination blitz for aged care and disability staff got underway this morning as the state racks up another 20,000 doses administered in the last day.
A big incentive because I don't want to be waiting for 3 hours.
Shorter queue, so came straight down.
Over 5,200 primary close contacts have been linked to the outbreak and put into isolation, but with several chains of transmission unknown in the cluster, Melbourne faces another anxious wait to see when this lockdown will be lifted.
And Abby, how have the people of Melbourne reacted to the news that they face a second week in lockdown?
Well, Ricardo, we had a mix of reactions from the people we spoke to today. Some people were angry about the extension of the lockdown and what that will mean for businesses. Others seem resigned to the fate of spending the next week indoors.
No one likes it. Everyone's frustrated, but I think most of us realise if it has to be done for public safety and for health, then we just have to grin and bear it.
It's definitely necessary. It's harsh, but it is one of those things where it's still out there.
If we don't do it now, we might be in for another 101 days.
So no doubt all of Melbourne will be watching the daily case numbers in the hopes that they will continue to come down and we'll see an end to this lockdown in a week's time.
Okay, our reporter there, Abby Dinham in Melbourne, thank you.